Hey guys, Timothy here. Today I will be making a high quality portrait for my Ice Golem Primal in Primal Fray. Despite things I've done in other videos, this isn't exactly crucial for the game to be playable, but as I enjoy crafting high fidelity pieces, I thought I will make it anyway. I think in low pixel games it is important to have some higher quality sprites, just to know the details the characters have, despite them being showed in a small form all the time. Without further rambling, let's get started. I'm working with 128 pixel square, on which I want to paint my guy. I will be using symmetry tools a lot, since the golem design is quite symmetrical. I begin working by blocking out the shapes of the head. I use middle tone of blue, leaving myself space to add darker and brighter tones. It doesn't need to be said that I am using the same palette I did for the small sprite, which I use as a reference here. When I think I got it, I add an inside outline effect for easy line work. However, now I notice that my background is too dark to see it properly and that I need to make it lighter. After a quick fix, I continue working. I begin with main face features, as they need to look proper. This includes eyes, nostrils, and base head shape. I want to emphasize a flat beak in front and a triangular shape from the top. It catches a lot of light, so I make it white. It is the brightest color of the piece, so I instantly add it as a point of reference for my contrast.
Then I begin to shade eyes. I want them to look shiny.
I achieve that look by inversing the light. As the golem is lit from the top and is brightest there, I made the darkest shade of eyes in the upper parts. It suggests a shadow of a brow above them. I also add bright reflections to add more a familiar and nice look to those alien eyes. They won't look human or animal anyway, since there is no pupil and they are rather uniform. Then I begin working on midtones to show more intricate parts of the shape. It also suggests three-dimensionality. As you can see, the cheeks are hollow and nose is extruding forward. I shade in between using bigger pieces of color, which suggest blocky and ice-like texture from which a face is carved. These aren't supposed to carry information about the shape of the head, but rather material it is made out of. I add and reiterate on various details and brighten eyes. I also thought about introducing some shine and light effects, but I weren't sold on them, so finally decided not to include them. After some work, I was pleased with the head design and ventured lower.
I used the same method of blocking the shape and then adding outline using an effect. However, this time I started with the darker color as my base.
The body is leaned back and not the main part of the design. Those are head and hands, so I try to darken it out for it not to grab that much attention. Starting with the darker color makes it easier to work that idea out in practice. I add shadow casted by the head from the top and begin to work on shapes. The body is made out of stone-like blocks and rocks, so I try to shape those out. I briefly tried to make them as shining crystals, but I'm unhappy with the design, so I scrap that idea. Instead, I just treat them as rocks and light them from the top, while showing shadow cast in the bottom. The effect reminds me of a necklace of sorts, and I honestly quite like it. A natural necklace of magical rocks, extruding out of the primal body, is a nice touch for a larger piece, and doesn't break the smaller sprite in my opinion. I also leave lower part of the body with less detail, as it is where the hands will ultimately be. Now for the hands. I try to capture the shape I have envisioned. I am aiming at clenched fists, with thumb visible behind, and thick, girthy forearms. I also want them to hang really low to add weight to the piece. They aren't perfect, but I will need to add more shapes later to really see what's going on and what I am aiming at. I add joints, which aren't really visible in the smaller piece, but here I thought they are necessary. They are by all means a secondary part of the composition, so I wanted to make them grey and more fleshy, as they are a sort of biological body encapsulated inside the ice armor. Then I begin to flesh out the forearms. I begin with the highlight, as they are catching a lot of light from the top. I want to show their roundness and smoothness I so much enjoy in the smaller version. For a while I focused just on finishing these round elements, with all shading steps, just to be sure I want them that way. I finally shift my attention to the knuckles, and I can already tell you
I will change them later, because for now I don't really have a solid idea how to draw them. I begin with 5 fingers, including the thumb. I also want the back of the hand to be flat and catch a lot of light, to again contribute to that ice carven rough look.
While I am working at the details, you can probably already see it is not the way. That many fingers have to be really thin and don't suit the character in my opinion. Furthermore, it is now clearly visible that hands are now at an angle, making the golem look like he's grabbing his belt. But he doesn't have a belt. To sum up, I wasn't really pleased with the arms design at the time, but didn't exactly pinpoint why, so I will first do legs and then come back to the hands later. And this is the important part. I have to make legs big enough to hold the weight of the character, but small enough so they are short and not a main piece of the drawing. I begin with a straight line to ensure stability, which I later break to design two toes, so well visible on a smaller sprite. I want to tie the legs to the torso more rather than hands or head, so I use the same stones I used there to show the knees and use different shades of blue to block out the overall shape of the legs. Despite that, I find that they are too blue and fight with the arms hanging above for attention. So I make them grey, like upper joints, and just leave the toes and knees to tie everything together. Then it came the time for the hands. I didn't really know what to do with them and made some trials off camera. What you can see here is a way more sturdy looking 3-finger hand. The angle of the wrist is still off though, so I put it back and began to straighten the forearms. You can already see that I added some UI in the meantime. It's nothing much, but I like doing UI elements just for fun, to see how the piece will look in a more game-like environment. I keep working on the shape of the hands and various details left to be changed in the whole piece. I also add the shadow cast on the ground, and it's done! With the in-game sprite and animations done, as well as the full-scale portrait or splash art, whatever you call it, I consider my ice golem to be pretty complete.
I am pleased with the result and think it will be a blast to play with such characters in the future when more gameplay is done. So I guess it's done for today. Next time I will move gameplay part of the game forward. Finally.
Until that time though, cheers!